Welcome to the 100 Club Podcast, a show designed to elevate the game of senior living sales and marketing leaders. I'm your co-host, Michael Moy, and with me is Corey Mitchell. We're talking to leaders from all different positions and titles, giving you and your team a competitive edge to reach 100% occupancy. You're listening to Season 1. Let's get into it. So welcome to the 100 Club Podcast. I'm your host for today's episode, and alongside with me is Maureen Longoria from LivNow Relocation. She's the CEO and co-founder of a new up-and-coming company that's helped servicing the senior living industry. And so without further ado, Maureen, it's great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Michael. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
Of course. And I know that we weren't recording on a number of our conversations, but I've just got to say, and this is very candid, I didn't preface this coming into the conversation, but you've just been a light to work with. If anybody wants somebody that has great energy, that has a heartbeat for the industry and wanting to really make an impact, connect with her on LinkedIn and give her company, LivNow Relocation, a follow, because I've just personally, you're hitting home on a service that is so needed and is so crucial for the industry. And so with that, thank you for just the energy and the passion that you bring.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Michael.
Of course. And so the topic of today's conversation is just going to be a lot around the move process. So just how can we really, and this is one of the things that I think it's maybe as a misnomer or something that gets overlooked a ton, is just how stressful and how important it is to make the move-in process ready. So with that, if you don't mind just setting the stage of LivNow Relocation, sharing, when you guys started, the why, and just paint that picture for us.
Oh, will do. Thanks. So LivNow Relocation opened our doors January 3rd of this year, but we're not new to relocation. Myself and actually the whole management team, my business partner, Lisa Burns, we've all spent more than 25 years in corporate relocation. And if there's one thing that we understand, it is the stress involved in relocation. And I often say, and I think people are surprised to hear this, but relocation is the third most stressful event in your life after death and then divorce. And as you know, oftentimes for the senior, that relocation is followed by perhaps the death of a spouse. So we had the good fortune of getting inside view into relocation for seniors and really felt compelled to bring them the same corporate class services that we've been providing to executives around the world. We saw an opportunity to make this transition, which, as we all know, is probably their final relocation, a much better experience than what they are presently experiencing at this point. We saw an opportunity to bring our relocation experience, that corporate relocation experience, to senior living. And what does that mean? It means that in corporate relocation, when you're going to move for your company, so if Welcome Home were to move you, they would employ a relocation management company, and you would have somebody at that company that was your one point of contact who would coordinate all the different pieces for you. And you knew that you could just pick up that phone and call that person, and they had the movers in place for you. They had the realtors in place for you. And they made sure that everybody was doing what they needed to do in that process so that move went as smooth as possible for you and your family. And we saw an opportunity to bring that same relocation experience to seniors. We have a heart for it because we see them struggling. They don't know necessarily how to interview a van line, a mover. They don't know anymore how to interview a real estate agent, what to ask about, And we just saw an opportunity to improve this experience for them, to advocate for them, to educate them so that they can make good decisions for themselves. And then on top of that, there's the whole family aspect, right, too. A lot of times, I think what senior living communities don't realize is that those seniors are leaning into their kids, their adult kids, but their adult kids are people like you and me who also have kids and they have jobs, and it's a lot for them to have to manage this process. And we have found that the adult children are very thankful to know that mom or dad are finding reputable resources that are being managed for them through LivNow, so that they don't have to worry about it. And that was really the heart behind what we were doing. We really just wanted to make that relocation process go so much more smoothly for them, but also more importantly, that they were in touch with the right providers that could ensure that that happened.
Yeah. So I think that's incredible. And I think the reason why anybody starts a business is that you've found a problem. You found a challenge in the space that people aren't necessarily, and it's not to say that people aren't doing it really well, but it's something that you can be doing and help accelerating and really giving a community, not only the families a resource, but now you're providing a community sales director an immense resource in terms of allowing them to have, because you think about the job of a CRD or a sales director, it is that and a million times other things of collecting paperwork. And so all of these things that are just encompassing with one another, you're providing a very stress-free kind of platform for the sales director to say, listen, this isn't my area of expertise. I don't know how to help you with the real estate. I don't know really how to, like, I've helped people downsize, but like I'm not a professional at it. So kind of share with me some of those lines of service for you and how you're really enhancing that experience.
You bring up a really good point, Michael, because that's exactly it. The sales director's goal is to increase occupancy. And so their time has to really be spent selling. And for them to be having to be distracted by providing the resources for the relocation process and making sure that that relocation process is going smoothly for the senior. And when those movers don't show up, taking those phone calls like, oh, the mover didn't show up, what do I do? And having to deal with all of that is a huge distraction from their day in, day out job that they're held accountable for. And so that's exactly it. We take that off of their plate, and the whole goal behind our services are to enhance the process for them, to enhance their job by basically reducing the cancellations, because when we find out that something happened and now the senior is really thinking twice about moving, we have that insight and we can help push that forward. And at the same time, we can report back to the community what's going on. Sometimes we hear things about they're not happy with a unit or something and they really wanted some other unit, and we can report this back. So it's basically, we're working hand in hand with them so that they can stay focused on selling, and we'll be managing that process and communicating back to them. But, at the same time, we're here to speed up the process. So reduce those cancellations, speed up the process for them by having reputable providers in place, by working with the senior to make sure that all the resources are there for them and we're moving them along in the process. And then at the same time, making it as stress-free as possible so that hopefully by the time they arrive, the sales director is going to receive referrals because they're going to arrive delighted with the process and happy that the community took such good care of them, not just up until the time they sold the contract, but into the, throughout the time in which they moved into the community. And so that's our whole goal: reduce the cancellations, speed up the process, and at the same time, hopefully increase referrals by making that process go very smoothly and the customer obviously arriving happier.
So I'm going to expose myself here and I'm going to show my true Atlanta colors, but I am a huge Chick-fil-A fan, right? And so what's one thing that they do extraordinarily well is they've created raving fans, right?
Yes.
So they are creating like these ravenous, like people like me that are willing to sit in massive amounts of lines in order to buy a freaking Chick-fil-A sandwich, which is crazy. It's the experience that really drives people back to Chick-fil-A. And so what I think that what you are doing, not to put a plug for Chick-fil-A, but then also just a plug for you, is just the you are creating a Chick-fil-A like experience for your families that are coming in. And so I would love to kind of touch on or just dispel any type of misnomers or misconceptions on using a third party service as a moving company, because it's one of those things that I would be scared of is I'm using a party or somebody that I've never really known, and you're a national company. So share why I shouldn't be afraid in that and to use you guys.
So I love, the raving fans, because that's exactly what we're striving for. And it starts with our vetting process of providers. So when we start to work with a community, we spend a lot of time up front vetting the best suppliers to work with near that community. So we start with, vetting the best top producing realtors, right? We find the top producing realtors, we go through the relocation directors, we find the top producing realtors, we interview each and every realtor before we consider putting them on the team. We do the same thing then when it comes to professional organizers. We find the best professional organizers in the area, and we will bring, we always have choices for the seniors, so we'll bring several of them on, and then same thing with the movers. And because of our corporate relocation experience, we tap into these providers very quickly. What does take time is actually then, as we have the list of providers that we're working with, going through that vetting process, making sure that they're fully insured and licensed, we get the dot numbers, and then we also negotiate service level agreements, and we will ask them to, for instance, the realtors, they often have admin and marketing fees. They waive those fees for us. So we're bringing these benefits to the seniors. The senior move managers, they'll give us a 1 free hour consultation up front that we can give to the seniors. The movers provide us with a corporate class service. If there's a claim, they'll get it resolved within 30 days. All of these things in our service level agreements with these providers. So everything starts with finding the best providers to work with and building that partnership with them. We introduce them to the community gets to know them as well. So now the community has more feet on the ground because these providers are working on this relocation team on behalf of the community. We're doing exactly what the sales directors would most likely want to do if they had time to do this, right? So it all starts there, but now we've taken it one step further by providing them with our dedicated move manager who is accountable for all of this, making sure everything is going smoothly for the senior, educating, like I said, and advocating for them. But we've also gone so far as to have a training program developed just for us on empathy in action. We understand that for people to feel validated, they need to be seen and heard. This relocation process, like I said, is really stressful. We want to make sure that when the senior is working with our dedicated move manager, they feel seen and heard and validated. And the reason we want to do that is by bringing that empathy, then we can move forward with action. Once they feel validated, they feel seen and heard, it's easier for them to move forward. So when their kid says to them, Mom, it's just stuff, let it go, that is actually slowing up the process. It's not helping. Whereas when our dedicated move manager says, well, tell me about your stuff, and actually has the conversation and talks about how we can help them repurpose it, that makes the process move forward. That stuff is really important to the process. So we, every person that comes into our company will be trained in this program. Like I said, it was created specifically for our company. We were super excited about that. And we're also turning that training back into training for the suppliers. So they will be doing training programs with us as well, just to make sure that they understand how that senior might be feeling as they go through this relocation process, so that they too can be sensitive to it and help them feel seen and heard, basically.
I think if you were listening to this and you're just in any way, shape, or form a part of the sales process, I think it's crazy. So our industry does a phenomenal job at doing what you just said, is the empathy and action. But you'd be surprised, I've noticed there was not that much visibility into the movers that you chose, right? And so I could be hiring Joe Schmo down the street, and they could have a terrible experience with this move-in process. And what you are doing and putting in place is essentially taking what our industry is doing and making sure that we are every single step of the way, right? We're empathizing with them. We are helping guide those conversations on how to downsize, how do we repurpose the things that are cherished, and that
Mhm.
to even maybe the adult child says, we can throw this away because they're just trying to speed up the process, but really it's hindering the process. And then this is all happening behind the scenes where a sales director doesn't even know that it's a roadblock. And so have you
Totally.
seen the momentum of the sale continue to accelerate because of that?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a great story that just happened. It was a woman that was doing this on her own, and the community finally got her committed to move in, and we started to work together with her. Lovely lady, but she had some collections. And
Mm,
so the community's preferred senior move manager, who we were working with, had gone in to meet with her, and the senior move manager told her she was a hoarder. She had 300 Santas, 600 beer steins. Her home was clean. She wasn't a hoarder. She had these collections, and they were treasures to her,
mm,
true treasures. I mean, you can imagine if she's collected that many of them. And so luckily, after the senior move manager visited with her, our dedicated move manager called the senior and asked how it went. Well, she had shared that it didn't go so well, and that she was actually very hurt and sad.
mm,
And at that point, our dedicated move manager was able to talk her into having a different move manager go out there and meet with her to talk about how she could help her with these collections. And if we hadn't been involved in that process, it would have stopped right there. Because before our involvement, that community only had that one senior move manager they worked with. But since we got involved, we've added. So they had now, more than one senior move manager to tap into. But even more importantly, there was a trust that was built up between our dedicated move manager and the senior, so that she shared that insight with her, that it was sad. And then it actually went one step further. Then she had agreed to meet with two of the realtors that we were recommending. And one of the realtors showed up one day and she didn't answer the door, and the realtor called, and she actually answered the phone, but she had fallen. She was on the floor. And so the realtor got help. And so this was other information that came back. I am delighted to say, though, she is since that time, and this has just been over a couple of months' time, she's already moved into the community. So if we
that's
hadn't been involved in that process, who knows how much longer this would have gone on, or if it would have even, like, if she would have even shared that information with the community, and or she would have just stopped the process altogether. I don't know.
that's such a good point. And so from kind of sidebarring here, so speaking outside of Live Now relocation, so speak to the sales director. So if anybody is not using your service, but they can't in some way, shape, or form, what type of advice would you give from a person sitting in their seat as a sales director, helping them guide through the conversations or navigating the challenges of that relocation process? What are some types of I guess words of wisdom that you'd share, because it's difficult.
Totally. Well, I will say we're constantly learning from the sales directors about how to overcome resistance and, bring that empathy and all of that. I think sometimes, though, people don't realize how stressful this process is and how important the stuff is in the process.
Mm,
And so my advice there would be, acknowledge the stuff and really talk about how, um, have the resources to help them. Like the discard and donate services that we use, we will not send to a landfill. It will be
mm,
repurposed. Everything that can possibly be repurposed will be repurposed. And
mm,
so my advice would be, if you can't provide outside resources, for a program like what we're doing, find a few good local resources that you can tap into for the senior. Make sure when you interview that household goods company, get their DOT number, make sure they're insured, make sure that they, are committing to good rates. You can tell them, I'm giving you volume. We're getting volume discounts for our communities, so those are some of the things that they can be doing. Oftentimes what happens is, they start working with the providers that show up at the community all the time, right? And they don't have time to vet the providers. But even more importantly, Michael, they don't know how to vet the providers. How would they know what questions to ask? Our website will tell you what questions they can ask to vet the providers. Put that out there for the seniors and for the communities so that they can make good decisions about the providers that they're working together with. So, I mean, that would probably be the one piece of advice I would give them if they couldn't put a program like that in place. Something else I didn't mention to you is, aside from our website, we have the Good Move app. And this is something new to senior living too. And the Good Move app stores all the relocation information for the senior and their family in a mobile platform. So the community also has access to this. They can see how the senior is moving along in their process, and they can see what providers they're working together with. But more importantly, the senior can go in there, and if they can't remember what time was the mover coming on Friday, they can go in there and look at it on the calendar. If they can't remember the mover's phone number, it's right there. They don't have to run around the house looking for business cards and things. It's all right there. And then they can delegate a designate like their or designate a delegate like their kids to go in there and find the information too. So their daughter or son can say, hey, I want to make sure everything that I wanted from your house is on that shipment. They can just go in there and look at the moving estimate for that. So that's another feature that we've created, going back to like coming full circle here. When we put this together, what were we thinking? We were thinking, oh my gosh, they should be able to have access to all this information in one place with technology. We've had it in corporate relocation for 20 years. Why shouldn't they have access to this too? And even more so, the communities now can go in and see, exactly who they're working with, what realtor or what mover, and where they are in the process. It's just great information for that sales director to, okay, great, this guy's on, this Mr. Smith is on track. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that it speeds up communication too. I mean, it helps bring everything in terms of up to speed for a salesperson, being able to communicate that with that information with their leadership team, and then also from a family perspective, it's bringing that full circle to not let them or have to worry about where they are in the process. And it's so funny, I've been kind of curious about this. A lot of the technology that we're using has been out there for quite some time, but like for instance, Zoom. Like I'm a victim of this. Zoom has been here for forever. Why is this the first time that we're doing virtual tours? Why?
Right.
Like why is this? It's just funny. But I'm glad that we're catching up to speed, and I'm glad that we're doing a much better job of implementing that technology. And it's great to hear from partners like yourself, because it really does go back to, that's the point of technology. It is to eliminate friction, eliminate resistance in whatever you're doing, whether it's in the health and wellness space or your sales and marketing director. You're just trying to help communicate with your families in more of an efficient way. Because at the end of the day, Maureen, this is something that I was thinking about, actually talking to a different person. So I forgive me on this diatribe, but you, from a sales director standpoint, I don't think that I've really comprehended this, and I'm going to miss a couple of points here. But think about the emotion, all points of it, that a family experiences throughout this process. Think about the sales director emotions, because they're stepping into the family's shoes. You think about the adult children into it, and you think about the actual residents, probably one of the more forgotten emotional aspects of them actually changing their entire lives. And so you go from an adult child going into this, not really wanting to come into your community, and then finally coming into the community and being like, okay, I can get on board with this. This is like a cruise ship on land type of thing. And then you go back, then you're like, oh, well, crap, I have to tell this to mom, I have to tell this to her. And then you go back into the kind of like the wave of emotions going spiraling downward. And then you work super hard, you have resources like yourself, and then you get back into it and you're like, okay, this is getting better. I'm making this a lot easier. And then if that prospect, if that derails at any
Mhm.
point, then you're just on that downturn again.
Mhm.
You the first 30 days can be sometimes hell it for somebody that is literally uplifted their life. And so you're taking, so full story here is you're taking the third most stressful piece of their life and really trying to eliminate something that's so significant that could really be a game changer on whether they have a good experience in that first 30 days or a bad one. And I think that's
Absolutely.
when,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Our web developer said to me one day, he goes, "Why do you think there's a warm-up band, Maureen?" He said, "It's because if somebody had a fight with their spouse on the way to the concert or they hit traffic, they need time to decompress before they can enjoy the concert. They don't want that affecting, right?" And I'm like, and regional, very large firm said to me too once. He said, a very large management firm said, "Will you just deliver happier residents to me?" Because they
Mm.
see it. They see like that relocation process takes it out of them. And when they arrive and they're like second guessing their decision, or like, that was really hard, that was really, so anything we can do to make it easier on them, and be sensitive to what they're going through, and like I said, bring empathy to that, I think will just um, return itself in spades.
Delivering happy residents. If that's not on your website right now, put it on your website because that's what you're
Yeah,
doing. That's
yeah,
exactly what you're doing. That's
exactly.
fantastic. Well, Maureen, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. If people want to find out more, I think you plugged your website already, but is there any other places such as like email or LinkedIn that you want to be followed at to learn more about your company?
Yeah, that'd be great if they wanted to follow us on LinkedIn, Live Now Relocation, LivNow Relocation. We'd love to have them follow us. We put out content somewhat regularly, keeping up on the real estate market and things like that. And absolutely, the website is another great resource.
Perfect. Well, Maureen, it was a pleasure. Thank you guys for listening to a wonderful episode of the 100 Club podcast. If you guys aren't following us, go ahead and follow us on 100 Club podcast, and that's on LinkedIn. We do not have a website yet because we're trying to become official more and more every single day. But thank you guys for listening, and until next time, have a great day.